A Malaysian woman who is disgusted at the amount of New Zealand plastic being sent to her country for so-called recycling has arrived in Auckland to try and stop it at the source. RNZ revealed in September that millions of tonnes of New Zealand's plastic was being sent to Malaysia, where it is often burned or dumped by illegal recycling factories. After the story broke, the Malaysian government moved to try and tighten regulations around plastic imports, bringing in a small tax and vowing to shut down operators flouting the rules. But since then, New Zealand has sent 1 million more tonnes of plastic to Malaysia, and those on the ground say the situation isn't improving. Our reporter Nita Blake-Person and cameraman Nick Munro have the story.
The shores of Mangere Bridge are a long way from Lei Pingpua's home in Malaysia. She didn't ever expect to come to New Zealand, but as mountains of the world's plastic pollute her hometown, she's ventured out to see where it's all coming from.
They are not sent out for recycle, actually they are sent out for dumping. And we really don't want to be the dumping site of the other countries.
Ms. Pua first noticed plastic factories popping up in her hometown at the start of the year. They began operating after China banned plastic imports. The factories in Malaysia are mostly illegal. They claim to be recycling, but are burning and dumping huge amounts of plastic which is too contaminated or too expensive to recycle.
We see our children suffering, our elderly suffering from a very serious problem like coughing, like asthma. And gradually the cancer rate increasing. We hope we can do something for our country and for our people.
I met Lei Pingpua in September when she showed me around one of the factories. Since then, she's been working round the clock to raise the alarm about the devastating impact they're having. Now Greenpeace has brought her to Aotearoa for a speaking tour with the aim of getting New Zealanders to better understand the impact their plastic is having elsewhere.
What they throw out actually go to waste. Actually, it turns to very dangerous and very harmful to ourselves. So we should try to minimize or even stop using most of the single-use plastic.
When the Malaysian government began taxing plastic imports several months ago, Ms. Pua hoped it would help curb the problem. But she says as long as New Zealand and other countries have plastic to send, her country and other developing nations will take it. In the first 8 months of this year, New Zealand sent nearly 6,000 tonnes of plastic to Malaysia. In September, the government asked recyclers here to carefully consider what was happening to the plastic exports they sent offshore. But since then, nearly 1,000 more tonnes has gone to Malaysia with no guarantees about what's happening to it when it gets there. The Associate Environment Minister Eugenie Sage didn't want to be interviewed for this story. She referred us to the Ministry for the Environment, who issued a statement which said there were no plans at this stage to restrict plastic exports, and instead they would be focusing on investing in recycling facilities here in New Zealand.
We should reduce, reuse and recycle and try to minimize our use of plastic, because we are going to kill by ourselves, by our these so-called technology that to provide us convenience lifestyle. Convenient lifestyle, actually we pay more to our next generation's health and our environment.
Lei Pingpua says enough is enough and both countries need to clean up their act to stop the situation getting any worse. In Auckland for Checkpoint, Nita Blake-Person.